وقل رب زدني علما.
But it's genocide, because all you need to do is send down a belief that passed away. You're right, you cannot fathom God fully. It's still genocide. No, he's seen, but what did he happen? So the point is, you can say that we can't understand what if it was right or wrong because of God. We're talking about two different things. One is the nature of God. For example, we cannot fathom God fully. That is correct in all religions. However, to say that we don't know nothing about God, that is a gross misunderstanding of the religion. Well, I wasn't saying that either. No, hear me out. The nature and existence of the Christian God is a three-in-one God. Yeah, and that is which I think is mad. Which doesn't make sense. But you can't expect the existence of a God to make sense to humans. No. But what you need to understand is that nowhere in the Bible did the Christian or the Jewish God or anyone, whoever you take God as God, no God in the Bible says that he's three-in-one. So for them to claim this is extra biblical. So where is
but if they did, I'm still got a defense. Not as a Christian, I still have the defense because you, as a believer that believes in the concept that you can't understand the existence of the nature of gods.
No, it's a straw man. I'll tell you why. Because
therefore, you yourself, if you believe in that and you do, you could not say to a Christian, no, the nature and existence of a three-in-one God doesn't make any sense. Because it's not about making sense. No, before you say it doesn't make sense, you need to ask them, where does it say that? Because what you're doing is you're dealing with the strawman argument. This is the fallacy of strawman argument. So what you're saying is that nowhere in the religion does it. That's not part of the religion. Exactly. It's just part of
exactly. Sure. Because they themselves are divided in this. You see, there are the Jehovah's Witnesses.
That's true.
They call themselves Christians, but they do not believe in the Trinity. There are Mormons. There are other Christians who do not believe in this. There are Unitarian Christians from the early time. They do not believe in it.
Just to stick to the concept, if it was in the Christian concept,
then you got a point.
If it was,
then you got a point.
There you are.
I agree. But what you're doing
that's all I was trying to say to
you were going
so
about...
I'm not trying to validate what Christianity does or doesn't say. I'm just trying to say that if your own belief is humans wouldn't be able to understand gods, then a Father, Son, Holy Spirit, which sounds mad, would be mad to humans because
you know what I would do there is...
We're not supposed to understand that.
You know one thing in the Quran we are told a very clear verse which says that if this book, the Quran, is from anyone other than God, surely you'll find discrepancies in it. Surely you'll find contradictions in it.
There are no contradictions in Harry Potter either.
No, but the Harry Potter doesn't claim it's from God.
Sure, but if I wrote a book tomorrow anonymously and said, come on, perhaps Muhammad did that.
You see, one thing about the difference between Harry Potter and other books which do not claim to be from God is that this book, the Quran, came over a period of 23 years.
We have been down here before.
Prophet Muhammad never claimed that he wrote the book. C, he did not know how to read and write. So all those points, given all those points, you cannot bring J.K. Rowling and compare Muhammad with that because you're comparing apples and oranges.
You can because just because a book has no mistakes in it.
That's what I'm saying.
And there are mistakes. For example,
the Quran doesn't
how
say
the sky got there.
That's what I'm saying.
How the earth formed.
The Quran doesn't say a book doesn't have a mistake. It says if this book means a book from God doesn't have a mistake.
What most religious books say about the formation of the planets and skies, gases in the skies and all that kind of stuff, it's wrong.
Why? What does the Quran say? Let's see what you know.
It said as part of putting the Earth into existence, it included the skies and the layers of the skies.
No, there's no such. In the Quran, there's no mention.
There's enough sustenance and food for all of life.
No. In the Quran, it doesn't say how long it took.
In the first 6 or 7 days, at some point, maybe on the 5th, 6th day, I don't know when, but during the course of those 6 days of creation, there is enough food for sustenance of all of life.
No. When you say
life and Adam and Eve were created by them.
When you say 6 days, how do you understand it? How do you understand it? You just mentioned 6 days of creation. How do you understand it?
It means 4.5 billion years. 6 days means 4.5 billion years. Okay.
Hold on. No. I don't mean to basically mock you. I just want to ask you, what do you understand?
I was mocking you.
No, that's what. If you want to,
if you're going to write 6 days,
then try to understand what you're talking about.
6 days, and then 2 years later, as part of the verses of the other chapters in that book being revealed from Muhammad, a couple of years later, he had a footnote that says these 6 days mean some other measurement.
It says in the Quran. What are you on about?
There's nothing.
You see what? It does say. No, hold on. You know when you start talking about things you have no clue about, you don't look very good.
In the Bible, not in the Quran. The Quran refers to during the course of these 2 days.
Period. Ayyam means period.
Well, okay, the Arabic can mean day as well as period.
Yeah, but it also says a day equals 50,000 years as well.
But if it's a God, it can quite easily tell you how many millions of years it took. Instead of saying,
it's not necessary for salvation.
Allah could have told you that the dinosaurs existed before we found out that
necessary for salvation.
But you see, the purpose of the Quran is not to tell you exactly how many billions of years it took.
It would have provided proof and evidence.
You see what you're trying to do there? You're trying to say the book has to say exactly what I want. Why?
Sure, but you started a minute ago by saying there's nothing wrong with your book.
Wait, I didn't say there was nothing. I said there's no contradiction in it.
You can't know the person that wrote, the person that said 6 days, or you don't know if he meant periods, and only the periods.
Oh, we know that. We know that.
You don't actually know if he meant days, or because it says a word that means various things.
Do you know Arabic?
You just told. I don't need to. You just told me.
He said the word ayyam. The word ayyam.
Day and time.
Yeah, the
That's
word
what you
ayyam.
said.
And then another part of the Quran says a day equals 50,000 years for that particular time.
Which
so
still
it's very clear. It's very clear.
It still
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What I'm saying is that. And by the way, wait.
For angels it's one thing, and for God it's another thing.
And
it still doesn't.
And one thing you need to realize that you know how the Arabs used to speak when they speak in idioms. They say, for example, in English you might say, "Don't make a mountain out of a molehill." Yes? Do you take that literally? No. In Arabic, when they say 50,000 years, it means a long time.
Sure.
It doesn't literally have to mean
for you to say that that's not a contradiction or it's not false.
Contradiction.
It's not.
If you take into account the idioms that the Arabic speak,
sure, but it's not right either.
Why?
Because if you wrote that instead of 6 yawns, if you actually said that it was equivalent to this amount of days,
right? You really think
then you're providing? Then you're. But how difficult for that is?
You really think it's a science book?
Do you know how many people stop being Christians because of that, and stop being Muslim and stop being
really? Show me one Muslim who's not a Muslim.
Many people.
Give me one name, go on. Give me one name. Because of this particular reason, this ayah, that they said they become stock believing as Muslims.
Not just that, but
and do you know how many atheists became Muslims by reading that? There you go. So we could argue both ways.
Sure, we could. But the point is, because that can be used as a tool for apostasy and a tool to recruit people to the religion, it works both ways. It gives a new.
And you know, by the way, as an atheist,
whereas the God could easily say, without giving equations and whatever else, the God could
let's be honest here. You haven't actually looked
up to billions of years.
Let's be honest. You actually haven't looked into the Quran.
Therefore, that's equivalent to the person that actually did write the book. If I'm wrong,
that's because you expected to be like that.
No, the person that, if I'm wrong, maybe Muhammad or some friends of Muhammad helped produce this text, or maybe as the Birmingham text, or maybe as the Birmingham.
Where's the evidence?
I'm not saying there's evidence.
Well, you said maybe.
I don't need evidence. You go on faith. I'm just giving you an example.
But you go on faith as well.
I'm giving you an example
from nothing. That's faith.
His faith is based on.
That's faith.
So let's say Joseph Smith. Joseph Smith produced the Book of Mormon in a very similar way to the Quran. Similar. I
Subscribe.
And there's things that Joseph Smith said in the Book of Mormon that you could bend and twist for meaning so that it's not wrong as well, such as 6 yawns, 6 days, whatever. If you're specific, then you'll get more people accepting this text as valid. Whereas if you write the text and you don't know,
what you're trying to do is you are expecting a holy book to be like a science book. It is not a science book.
I'm explaining to you why.
It is not a science
book. Because if you don't know nothing and you write a book that doesn't know nothing and it demonstrates, you're either demonstrating that it's not a science book because that's your preference.
It is not a science book.
You only say it's not a science book because it's not a science book, but you could put.
Of course it's not.
You could put some.
You have actually read the Quran, seriously?
Yes, I have.
So why would you make a mistake like what's the difference between ayyam and the date 6 days?
Because the translation in English I read said days.
In English say days.
And have you read the
Quran.com, it will say days.
.com.
And if you go to Compass,
but wait a minute. You know what you're doing is that you're saying the Quran has to be specific to what you should understand as big.
If you had specificity,
you know something.
If you specify correct,
can I say that as an atheist,
then
you have faith in certain things as well.
If you specify stuff, only then can you say the book's not wrong. If you say text that can't be proven wrong or right, you can't say the book doesn't.
Have you actually believed in something that you were not certain of?
The book is just full of ambiguous things that could be this or it could mean that.
Let me ask.
So it can be wrong. 6 days can be wrong.
For you,
and 6 yams could be right.
You see, it is for you to find out what is wrong. That's all. Let me ask you something. Have you ever?
Yeah, but the only way that humans know how to do that, the only way that humans know how to find out if it's wrong is use science, and then religion says science is rubbish when it.
Can I ask you a question without interrupting?
Religion.
Can I ask a question without interrupting? Have you actually believed in something that you
came down here to look for a friend?
Still doing it.
So I'll be gone after this question.
That's fine.
Go ahead.
You found a few though.
Have you actually believed in something that you do not have concrete evidence for?
Yes.
You have?
Yes.
Why can't we do the same?
You can.
There we go.
But,
end of story.
But the difference for me
It's what?
is that there's certain things that I believe in.
What you just said is faith.
This doesn't. What I'm going to say to you does not speak about you. It talks about the. I'm going to get there. And like I said, I'm going to go look for my friend anyway, right? Okay. So I'm not talking to you, but I am talking that it affects humans in different ways. Certain texts in the Quran and
answer the question I asked you.
In certain texts,
how can what you just said is not faith?
I'm answering your question.
What was my question?
Certain types of faith.
What was my question?
Certain types of.
What was my question?
Is there anything that I believe in that doesn't have evidence?
No, you already said yes. I'm asking you, how is that different to the faith that I believe in?
Why?
Okay, go on.
I'm telling you why. Because some faiths, some
No, tell me about your faith.
I don't have a faith.
You just said you believed in certain things which you don't have evidence for. That is faith.
I believe that dragons don't exist, and I've got no evidence for that.
But wait, you said don't exist or exist?
Don't exist.
No, I remember the question I asked you. Do you believe in anything that you don't have evidence for?
Yeah,
not what you don't believe in.
In dragons not being real.
Yeah, but that's not evidence. That's
correct. That's my whole point. That's my
basically you don't believe in them. If you believed in them without evidence, then yes, you got a point.
Okay.
So answer the question once again. What is it that you believe in that you don't have evidence
I believe that Mars used to have an atmosphere.
Okay.
But there is evidence.
Is that faith-based or evidence-based?
Yes, absolutely faith-based.
Okay, so how is it different to anyone else's faith?
Actually, it has evidences that leads to that, although they're not absolutely concrete evidences. Therefore, that's my definition of faith.
Let me ask you a more specific question.
Why don't I have a problem with that kind of faith, and I have a problem with present day 7th century or older religions? Because look at the history of those religions. They have led to lots of violence. There's the Sunni and Shia
religion now. It's about God.
Are you saying atheism didn't have any violence?
No,
not at all.
I'm not saying
not
that.
at all. There you go. So what's the point?
There's no text. There's no text that causes people to behave in that way.
No text. You don't need a text to behave immorally. You don't need a text to behave like an animal.
You do have a text.
Do you really need a text?
If you've got a town of 50,000 people that wouldn't have done some bad, they wouldn't have invaded other towns over there, say on the outskirts of Mecca.
Like Americans,
they wouldn't have invaded those towns over there if they didn't have this text they thought they were going to get rewarded in the afterlife for. Otherwise, it's the only thing most.
So you're saying those people who were atheists and they committed genocide?
Yeah.
Which book did they refer to?
Yeah, but there's no text that makes them do that.
Exactly my point.
Why did they do that?
And that's you don't need a book.
Religion, exactly. I know.
So you cannot blame a religion for being.
The history of religions have added to that.
Okay, let me be more specific about the point I was making about having witnesses, about having evidence. Yeah, you believe in testimony?
I've only just recently.
Not at all.
You mean human?
Yes, human testimony.
No,
yes,
not at all. Which is why I said my evidence to believe in the evidence that is concrete evidence for the atmosphere in Mars.
Let me ask you this: do you believe?
Testimony is weak, my friend.
What's your name, by the way?
Even journalists can't go by the testimony of people that they see around when they go.
What's your name?
Glen.
Glen. Do you believe your dad is your dad?
Yes.
Have you done DNA test?
Yes.
You have?
Yes.
Okay. If you hadn't done DNA test, would you believe?
We used this firm, I don't know, 23andMe or something like that, and you can see.
Okay.
But yeah.
What about DNA test on your mom?
That would involve.
You done that?
No.
You haven't done. How do you know that you came from your mom?
It's faith.
Faith.
But it could be wrong, and that's.
But you said you didn't believe in testimony. Now you believe your mom's testimony.
I do, yeah.
But you just said earlier, a minute ago, you don't believe in testimony of humans.
But this only happened 30 years ago when I was
Regardless, your principle, you're going against your principle.
Sure, but it's difficult for her to make.
Do you still believe you're her son? 30 years ago, that's fine.
I'm not sure, no.
Oh, now all of a sudden you're sure.
Okay,
Glenn,
if you want to use evidence, but that's the point. You have to use evidence.
They would denounce their own moms. just to win a point.
Therefore, it's ridiculous to go on my mum's testimony. Yes, it is.
Honestly, I know, Glen, I've heard many atheists, but this is the worst argument I've
could have muddled me up in a hospital, and I and my mum is wrong.
That's fine. So, you know, every atheist believes like you, they've been trusting their mothers and fathers.
You have a parent lived 1,000 years ago.
You're right.
Do you believe you have a
if
parent?
Every atheist,
your mum can make a mistake.
Your day-to-day life will become impossible if you start looking for evidence all the time. For example, when you go to your doctor, do you ask him to show his certificates to you?
Yeah.
Do you? Or do you just trust the NHS? Do you trust the testimony of the NHS?
Yeah. You would trust the testimony of other people.
Why are you rubbishing that before?
Thank you, Glen.
Because that hasn't been handed down. The reason you asked me this in the beginning, but you just don't allow me to explain.
You say you don't believe. I'm fasting.
I have two sentences.
Thank you.
I have two sentences to answer the man's question.
No, go on, answer.
I have two sentences to answer the man's question. I only finished the first one, and I get ridiculed on the first one.
No.
But the second one, the second sentence.
But you said you don't believe in testimony. It seems like you do believe.
You don't take testimony.
I'm saying that testimony is really bad evidence. I said,
even for a doctor.
Yes, it's bad evidence.
How would anyone go to the doctor then if they don't believe in testimony?
However, we know by doing some science of doing studies about what's happened with this group and what's happened with this group, when they tell of a story like what happened in the
we're talking about doctors, mate. Explain that.
I know.
How would you go about your daily life without believing in any any testimony from humans? How?
Where are you from? From here.
I am.
If you want to go on holiday, would you go to TripAdvisor to see what's going on there? Or you're not?
But that's different.
So why you go to
that type of testimony?
Why? Why is it different?
Why
Good
TripAdvisor
question.
is
That's it. Ask why.
Because earlier you said you don't believe in any human testimony.
TripAdvisor is testimony of
all you're
people
doing
who
is
they
using the word
experience.
testimony, but testimony has about 5 or 6.
No, but Glen, I asked you very specifically.
Let me answer you.
And you said I don't believe in human testimony.
Let me please finish what I was saying. You're using a word which is very fluffy.
No, it's not. It's very specific.
You're interrupting again. We're using a word of testimony, but there are 5 or 6 different facets of testimonies.
Which are?
For example, if it wasn't an eyewitness, and then if it was an eyewitness account that happened over 5,000 years.
No, give me your example of testimony.
It's been passed to another person, to another person.
Not talking about religions now. I'm talking about you. I'm talking about your testimony.
So the word.
How will you believe in testimony?
So therefore, the testimony to believe a doctor that is sat in a doctor's room, and you've known him for years, that's not just testimony, because it relies on evidence. You haven't realised this. The evidence being is there's no way. I won't say no way. It's very implausible that he can keep getting paid to come and sit in that chair as a doctor without his credentials being renewed, without going on courses during the year, and then no one realising you're not actually a GP.
Actually, many NHS doctors were found out like that. They were quacks, and they were getting paid for years.
Exactly.
So your answer really doesn't.
To accept a doctor as the doctor isn't just testimony of him sitting there saying he's a doctor. It relies on
you miss my point.
Around
I'm saying that you're going based on.
Has a lot of different
but
meanings.
you're still going based on testimony of the people in NHS. Just because you happen to visit the same doctor every year on, it doesn't. You might be visiting maybe once a year, twice a year, unless you're really sick.
He could have got caught out over the years.
He could have, but maybe he couldn't have either.
Which is why testimony is bad.
Exactly. I didn't say it was
You've
perfect.
just proven it's bad.
No, I didn't say it was perfect.
Sure.
But for you to say I do not believe in human testimony, that was a gross error on your part.
You
agree?
No, because like I said to you, there's about 5 different.
You said it now after I told you your mom doesn't like to you.
It depends on.
Hashim is taking it back.
Yeah, I think
he's taking it back.
Because
you are taking it back.
I'm taking it back. The reason being is when you said the word testimony, I thought of one facet of.
Why would you?
He's interrupting me. There's about 5 or 6 different facets of it. So I was just thinking of one of them. I'm not, but to him, he's trying to take it that I'm saying that every 5 or 6 of the facets of testimony are strong evidence. They're not. So I wouldn't ever say that.
Let me ask you another example from scientific perspective. Do you believe every scientist done every experiment the previous scientists have done?
Oh no, they haven't. There's evidence that they haven't.
But do they go based on the testimony of certain people without even looking at the evidence that they have produced?
Some of them have, and that's been highlighted as a mistake and something that science has improved upon not to do that.
No, but do they still do it?
Not sure.
I wouldn't expect every scientist to look at every single experiment out there and every single theory out there. They would take it based on, for example, Einstein is a trustworthy guy. We believe him. Okay, so I'm not going to repostulate the E is equal to MC square again.
It's not Einstein.
It's an example I gave.
It's not Einstein that's trustworthy. It's the mathematics that Einstein wrote that's trustworthy.
Yeah, but his mathematics is what you trust. His results in his mathematics is what you trust, not his degree in mathematics.
You don't have to go through all. He only did about 2 theories, and he all package up into two different equations, and those two different equations cover everything. So basically,
and that's what I'm telling you, Glenn. In order for you to lead a normal life, you will have to rely on evidence.
It's the same one he's saying. It's the same one he's saying. The Quran, when he sent down to Muhammad alayhi salam, he was a trustworthy. And one, by the way, from there to now,
the Book of Mormon is trustworthy to Mormons, but not to you.
No. When you say trustworthy,
and the Book of Mormon was produced in a very similar way to the Quran, whereby an angel was speaking to Muhammad, and then Joseph Smith had angels influencing what he would write down. He was translating from golden tablets or something like that. So instead of it being a voice through into Muhammad's head that he spoke, Joseph Smith, instead of it being precisely like that, he used golden tablets that he then said what he reckoned it said on the golden tablets.
That's why I say you don't know much about Islam.
Then you analyze what he's saying. That's how you know.
But if there's nothing in what Joseph Smith said that can be analysed, for example, 6 yums, this, that and the other, they have multiple meanings, incorrect meanings. 6 days is an incorrect meaning. If they have incorrect meanings and correct meanings, and you couldn't know which one he actually meant.
That's why you look at the text.
If you read Joseph Smith's book, would you know what God wants from you? Would you know how you're saved? Would you know these things?
Saved?
As in salvation.
Oh, but salvation is just an invented idea in the first place.
Right. That's your opinion, but I'm asking you, if you look at Christian Bible, it tells them about salvation. You look at Jewish Bible, it tells them about...
But the point is,
where's the salvation in Joseph Smith?
In a similar way, there are no errors in the Book of Mormon either. But his argument was, there's no errors in the Quran.
But there's nothing in it for you either.
And the reason for that is there's nothing in it that you can measure and test.
But there's nothing in it for you to benefit from.
I told you there is no contradictions in the Quran. What if I show you contradictions in Joseph Smith's book?
Yeah.
Then what?
you reject that.
There aren't any contradictions in the Book of Mormon.
Have you read it all? You read it all?
No.
There you go. How would you know there's no contradiction?
Oh, faith.
Oh, now you all of a sudden believe in faith.
You can't have an objective opinion.
You should think it's okay because I believe it's okay.
No, I think it's okay, but you're in denial, even though you believe in faith.
Without reading it, that's what we call
there are different
blind
types of faith. And the different types of testimony.
Just quick.
You know, that is something I agree with you.
And some testimony,
I agree with you totally there. But to deny either of them,
some testimonies have been built on evidences, because hard evidence.
And we believe that as well. You see, look, in Islam we do not say no to evidence. We believe in evidence. We believe in testimony.
You would not be able to get that sign printed up with the NHS logo and all the rest of it outside his office door, or on the wall that's owned by the local council. You've got to go through all various different kinds of. They're not necessarily tests, but they act as tests.
So there have been quack doctors who have been found out, and who have slipped through the system.
So
So it's not impossible.
It's not impossible.
It's very much possible. Yeah.
Just because we touch a little bit on salvation, I might ask you, my brother in humanity. No. I just want to ask you a question.
I got put into existence.
Not in salvation.
I
Not in
got put into
salvation.
existence. Hold on a second.
Hear me out.
I got put into existence, and without any evidence at all, I can get punished for choosing some religion.
If you make a claim, you have to prove it. That's all I'm saying.
All what I'm trying to say.
It could ask, but until proven, it didn't happen. Yes. If you make any claim, it is imperative that you prove it.
And your kids,
I have a question about this.
Your kids, would you tell them they have the purpose on life?
Yes, I tell them how to find purpose.
What is your purpose? What is your purpose?
Show them how to find purpose.
What is your purpose?
My purpose is to live day by day and enjoy the sun and enjoy my kids growing up and changing and learning things, and we die. We become worm food. Why not?
So what's the difference between humans and animals?
What's the difference between chickens and lamb?
Exactly.
We're eating nature. Why can't nature eat us?
What's the difference then between us and animals?
Animals have different types of ways of living, different ways of doing things, which are right for them, and it enables their continuation.
No, but your purpose of life doesn't seem very different to that of dogs over there.
Hold on a second.
Because it is born,
yes, but I'll explain.
It eats, it procreates, and it dies.
It doesn't matter.
It does.
Hold on.
You must have some purpose.
It does according to your man-made religion idea.
No, based on what you said, that's exactly what they do. They are born, they eat, they procreate, and they die.
But if it's true that humans were created, then what those humans are doing, they were created to do that.
Okay,
so if it's true that humans were created by a being with an intent to be as humans are, and then humans behave as humans, well, humans were made to do that.
No, there's a free will. You see, when God made humans, God did not just leave man. Look, you asked me a question. Let me answer.
Things like feeding ourselves.
You made yourself clear. Let me respond to that.
And having fun, music or whatever.
He didn't just create
you
us
see,
and leave us.
For God to just create someone and leave them like that, yes, you got a point, but God didn't do that. God gave every human being guidance on this earth how to live a life that is clear and that is beneficial to yourself and to the society as large. As for atheists, where do you get your standards of morals from? For example, what do you mean from nature? Okay,
like I was just trying to explain to you a minute ago, but with respect, you interrupted me. I think it would have made a lot more sense to you if you'd let me finish the sentence. But I stopped to listen to you, although you haven't added any meaning to what I was going to say.
Okay, finish your sentence.
Okay, make your point. Go on.
The point is, we inherent in us the chemicals. Some of us have too many chemicals that don't make us happy, make us depressed. We want to kill ourselves or not take part in society, stay at home, be a recluse. We have chemicals that do different things in our body. It's all biology, right? So chemicals that make you feel happy, chemicals that make you feel sad, chemicals that make you feel interested in something or not interested in something. It's all biology. They're all biological chemicals, and we can actually measure them. And we know what the molecules look like when someone's depressed. With the different hormones and whatever.
Really?
Yes, really. So the point is, we're driven by all of those things. It's all biology. So the biology that makes me desire to have sex, to reproduce, is evolution reproducing itself. If evolution came about, I think naturally, I respect your view, it was created, but if evolution came about and just over time, by trial and error of dying out, it's come up with a particular molecule that is the only one that would continue and survive and keep reproducing and keep surviving until we put too much CO2 in the atmosphere. If that's true, then we're behaving in accordance to nature. We're just doing what nature wants us to do. So, for example, where would we get good morals from? Their nature as well. Why? Because we inherently inside of us, just like a snake knows inherently what foods to avoid and what not to avoid, right? We inherently, which it's learned over a long time of trial and error, we inherently have stuff inside of us
Wait. When you said inherently,
it enables us to identify what is a good moral and what is a bad moral. I'll tell you what are good morals. Good morals are things that don't negatively affect other people.
Really?
Right? For me, bad morals are things that negatively affect other people. So what doesn't have consent causes discontent. So what doesn't have consent? To cause negativity in amongst people, it has to be discontent. You don't have their consent. So what has consent is moral. What has no consent will create negative feeling. And then you're going to ask me, who cares about negative feeling? Who cares about good feeling?
No, I wouldn't ask that actually.
Well,
I would ask you, this chemicals you're talking about.
The other question, because if we've got too much discontent in biology, we kill ourselves off.
No, wait. Let me ask you a question based on what you said. You said there are chemical reactions in a human body which basically give
happiness,
give effect to the emotions that you experience. Yes?
Yeah.
You see, we've got lots of humans out there. Do they have different chemicals in the body, or they have similar chemicals in the body?
Similar, but not the same. But
I didn't say
in enough quantities.
Okay. So what might be good?
Let
me ask you this: what might be good and
why
moral to
only
you?
A small percentage of people
See,
that have depression.
I didn't interrupt you.
Sure,
what might be good and moral to you? Is it possible for another atheist to say, no, this is actually immoral and not good? Okay? Would they say that? Same an atheist?
If you use the measure inside nature itself,
how can you measure? How can you measure, for example, love,
nature,
trust,
you can measure
dishonesty?
I told you.
How will you measure that?
You can measure what creates discontent and measure what.
So you actually got some instrument. Wait a minute.
For humans, what lions do is wrong.
Brother, one second.
If a snake tried to do what lions do, snakes would die out.
Let's not compare the human.
So we've all got.
Let's not compare humans and animals here.
So what rabbits do in a natural way is from nature, and that enables them to survive.
Yeah. Anyway, we are not comparing humans and animals. We are comparing humans and humans. this gentleman here is saying he has actually got how to measure emotions, how to measure trust, how to measure love, how to measure hatred for someone. And he actually, how is it that the CIA is not using this?
So, like
for example, they can go to an airport and find out this guy's got a lot of hatred. Wait.
The laws.
Bro, I'm making my point. Can I finish? Without interrupting. How can the CIA and the FBI, if they got the technology, not basically instill these devices at the airports and catch out those terrorists who come to this country or other countries to blow up people? Why are they failing time and time again to catch this terrorist? Wait, I haven't finished yet. Glen, I haven't finished yet. If this is so sophisticated, and if this is what this gentleman is trying to say, that there is actually chemicals within our body, and it has been proven that they actually identify accurately the emotions we feel, then why aren't people using those instruments today? So far, we have not got any such device, and I think what you're just saying is gobbledygook.
Well, I didn't say that I didn't say that the things that you referred to could be measured in that way.
So in what way is it measured?
And they cannot.
In what way is it measured?
But I did say that you can measure good and bad behaviour.
How?
Good behaviour are things that rely on consent of other people.
And what if they are very good liars?
Let me finish.
What if they're very good liars?
Exactly. But we're not talking about them changing their mind and lying later on. We're talking about the actual thing that they're saying. So the purpose behind and the thing that they do, if that is against other people and other people don't consent to it, you're going to cause big problems. And if they do consent to it, then everyone's happy.
Oh, really?
So if everyone's happy, that's a moral thing to do.
Let me give you an example.
If no one's happy, it's an immoral thing to do. So you can gauge good and bad by the quantity of consent or lack of consent, and then you can gauge how much discontent it's going to create in society. Because discontent, I'll finish. Discontent creates wars. Wars are not stable evolution for evolution. You can't have a stable society with wars and people stealing off.
You know something? You're saying consent. As long as it's consensual.
You mean went too far for you?
No. As long as they have consent.
You can see what instability does in society.
Glen,
it ruins the whole.
Wait a minute. Actually,
the whole population.
You know what you have done there?
Which is
you have actually
evolution.
proved something against your own self. I'll tell you how. Okay. Imagine there are two adults and they both consent to have sex with each other. Yes? I'm talking about incest. They do not hurt anyone, and they use contraception to do it. Wait. They use contraception, so there is no procreation involved. Now let me ask you this question. Do you agree with incest? Would you agree with a mother sleeping with his son or a father sleeping with his daughter?
Like I said, you use nature. I use. You asked me where I get my morals.
You said consent only. You didn't mention nature.
Well, correct, but it's not as black and white as you're saying. I'm not backtracking. I'm just saying that, like with the word testimony, it can have 5 or 6 different facets to it.
Right.
Unfortunately, with this word consent, it has as well.
Why didn't you mention that?
But I did.
It's every time I correct you, you try to somehow backtrack.
You know I did, but you're backtracking. I started by saying you use nature.
No, you said
so
consent.
Let me explain why.
As long as you don't hurt anyone, and you both have consent, and you're not hurting anyone, then by nature it's fine.
I boiled it down to consent for simplicity, but I started by saying you use nature.
Okay, so
and nature
tell me why is incest wrong according to you, based on your principle?
Because
why is it wrong?
According to me, because according to nature, nature shows you that a son having sex with a mother leads to crippled.
Remember, I told you they don't have to have procreation. They use contraception.
But nature has shown that it's wrong.
But
nature doesn't.
Do you not understand? Their idea is just for pleasure, not to procreate.
I do understand.
Would you agree up to that level?
No.
Why not?
But what I'm doing, but what you're saying is I can't disagree. You're telling me I can't disagree.
I'm saying you can't disagree, but are you then not going against your principle?
What I'm doing is showing you that nature shows why it's wrong. Therefore, whether you use a condom or not, it'd still be wrong. Because it's there in nature.
Why is it wrong?
Just like I said with condoms.
Based on your principle, why is it wrong?
Father and son. What about father and son?
Based on your principle, why is it wrong? If there is no intent of procreation, why is it wrong? Because your principle was very clear. As long as you don't hurt anyone, as long as two adults have give consent to each other, then it should be okay. But now all of a sudden it's not okay.
Well, let me ask you. Let's say that the world changed quite quickly, and sons were having sex with their mothers. No. But because I said in nature it shows you it's wrong. We can get around it.
There's no intent of
we can get
procreation.
around it with condoms, but it shows you can see that.
Okay, I'll tell you what. Father and son, can they have sex with each other?
No, hold on.
They can't have babies, can they?
Now
go on.
I was trying to ask you a question, which was.
No, but you're not answering the question.
Let's say more and more people did with using condoms, have sex with their parents, right? So that they're not producing kids that will have deficiencies that we know of, right? Are they triple?
Bring condoms, remember?
No, I'm saying.
You're going all over the place, aren't you?
I
haven't thought it through.
No, I said. So what your game is, you interrupt, and I'm going to.
You look very nervous all of a sudden.
I was saying, let's say this doesn't happen. Let's say they do use condoms, and it doesn't.
Glenn, I'm not trying to corner you. I'm just saying, based on your principle, you're completely wrong.
I said, let's just suggest overnight the whole world started having sex.
Wait, let him finish.
Let's say they started having sex with their mothers, right? Then what actual negative effect does that cause in society from you?
No, I already see it as wrong. I don't need.
Yeah, but I'm asking you why.
Your principle.
I can show you.
You know what you're doing now? Instead of answering the question, you're putting the question back to me.
Yeah.
I already denounced it. Look, regardless of crippled children, regardless of what happens, to me, incest is wrong, period, based on my religion, based on my faith. But you somehow devise this principle that as long as you don't hurt each other, you do not hurt anyone, and you have a consenting adult saying that is okay, then what would be the problem if a father and a son had sex with each other?
Same thing, that nature's showing us that they don't get babies, offspring.
Don't tell him, let him realize
father having, they don't, but I don't care.
So why is it wrong then?
What I would do is...
Why is it wrong? Well, based on your principle, why is it wrong?
Maybe for him could be wrong.
I'm trying to explain to you, you keep interrupting me. Right?
He can't speak on others. He doesn't have an authority.
No, he gave his principle. He gave his principle.
Guys, those people are willing to do their choice.
My authority.
He gave his
intervene into somebody's choice.
My authority is to use nature. And just in the same way as in religions, that you've got verses that act as morality of how to behave. Some people bend and twist that, and you can, because they're written in texts, and those words can mean various things.
Answer the question based on your principle.
So
don't bring it back to religion.
So
I want you to answer based on your principle. Why is it wrong for a father and a son to sleep with each other with consent?
What you're doing is I'm giving you an answer to...
No, you're going back to the religion.
It's a natural thing to do.
You're going back to explaining the religion.
I'm going back to me. I was saying that I would use nature as my gauge. But just in the same way as in religion, that is the gauge can be used in various different ways.
When you say nature means
to be within the couple.
When you say nature means what? Do you know that? Do you know in nature there are animals who sleep with each other? With their sisters, the siblings. Yeah, the pigs, for example.
Yes, but I'm not talking.
But that is nature.
I'm not talking about.
So what then?
Humans apply pig nature. We've all got different. We've all got different morality because biology is instilled that. I can feel you're going to interrupt me in 3 seconds flat. Every different species has their own biological morality, right? The chemicals that they have will either lead to them continuing or they will lead to them dying out. So the fact that a pig is a different species to a human, what pigs do, I would not use that as something to say that's okay for humans to do.
What nature? Can I say something?
Well, I should have been more specific and said human nature.
Okay, human nature. Yeah. So tell me what would be the problem
like I said,
if a man and a son sleep with each other?
Like I said, the word testimony can be slippery. It can mean different things.
I'm asking you for the 4th time. What would be the problem based on your principle, even from nature, for a father and a son to sleep
the same thing. Nature has shown us that the mother and a father, therefore siblings having sex with parents, is wrong.
Why?
Because it leads to kids that have massive...
They don't have kids, father and son.
I know, and neither do gays. But the mother and the son shows that a mother and a son...
Are you against the gays as well?
They can still do.
Are you against the homosexuals?
No, not at all.
You're not?
No.
Okay, so what is the problem with a son and a father then?
If it's for you wrong...
Because nature's told us that siblings having sex with their parents...
They don't... Is what?
Is going to cause problems for those kids, right?
Like in the case of the father and the son, what problem would you say?
In the case of the mother and the son.
No, why are you going to the mother? I'm asking you about the father and the son.
The reason I'm doing that...
You're trying to evade that because you know it doesn't fit in your box.
I am not evading it. I am saying... What I'm doing... But I'm not evading it.
I asked you like 5 times
the
same question.
You keep interrupting me.
No, I gave you a chance to answer.
No wonder I can't.
Every time I give you a chance, you go on to something else.
The reason being is because it's a mother and a because it's a father and son. You see, you interrupted again.
Yeah, because you're going back to the mother.
I know you want
to... Stick to the example I gave you. Father and son. What is the problem?
Because it's father and son, nature doesn't specify mother and son. It's just showing you
Going
that
back to mother and son.
Okay, let me explain.
You don't. The reason you cannot stick to example.
The reason have a debate with someone
He knows
and
it's
say
not
all the
no.
words
You're not
that you've got in
listening.
your
He's giving you
defense.
the answer. Can I ask you something?
Glenn, why are you reading the question? Why are you reading the question? Can you have patience? No, you can't. You have to wait. What I'm saying is this: father and son. Can you stick to that? Can you focus on that example?
Yes.
Okay. Why is it wrong?
Because mother and son show
Again, father and son.
Yeah.
Stick to the father and son.
I'm not going to debate using only the words that you want me to use.
It goes against you. Goes against your principle.
No.
That's why you're afraid to answer
You are
that.
caught.
No, you're consistently evading that.
In the same way that mother and son isn't specific, I agree. In the same way that mother and son is not specific, that father and son shouldn't do it, it's not specific. I absolutely agree.
Why are you evading
And if
the
you just asked me that question, I would have agreed with
Glenn,
you.
why are you evading the
But
question?
the point is this.
Why are you evading the
Mother
question?
and son offer a gauge of what not to do for parents. Just as in religion, you'll have something that says don't do this, and people do it in different ways. I would say that mother and son means father and son as well.
Why? In the case of mother and son, there is a chance of procreation. But in the case of the father, what is the contention?
Well, it's not because it's not they're going to produce bad or malforming kids.
So what's the problem then?
But it shows the action of doing it in mother and son is wrong.
Mother and son, I understand. In father and son, why is it wrong?
Well, mother and son, father, mother's the same.
You know,
thing.
father and mother are not the same person.
They are. They're different people. But
Yes.
the point is,
So, and the son. Wait a minute. The son, and the father.
Biologically inconsequential whether a father and son sleep together. It makes no difference.
It does.
correct.
Because his principle was this. If
But when I
listen
others
first, listen.
But when I said
Do not
something
hurt
like
anyone,
that, he
it's
told me.
okay.
When I said that to him, he told me I've got to talk about the other
That's
things.
his point.
you have to.
They don't have no one.
That's fine.
Unacceptable in just
They
about
are
every
both
culture in the
consensus.
world. But biologically,
Consensus about that.
it's inconsequential. The difference being that a
But you
female
avoided the
and a
question.
male of
I'm
the
not-
same genetic
I don't
line
think
sleeping
I'm-
together is biologically.
I don't think I'm avoiding the question. I might not be saying the actual things that you'd like me to say.
What if they don't?
But I'm
if
not
there's no
avoiding.
intent of
What I'm
procreation?
saying is, you've got various things about.
What if they
for
use
example,
contraception?
in Islam, there's a
Then is it
debate
okay?
about how much or what the woman should cover.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just turn on.
Okay.
It's not specific, is it?
The culture is based
I
on what?
answer your
Yes or no?
question and you move the
So just as
goalpost.
No, I didn't. It's the same.
That was the discussion.
Okay, Glenn, look.
Neither is it specific
Glenn,
about certain.
I'm saying there's no incentive even between mother and son.
It's not because look at.
unnatural thing to do.
It is wrong. Do you agree?
You can't use your own.
My friend, do you agree it's wrong?
Yeah, I agree. No, you can't use your own.
Do you agree it's wrong or right?
Immoral.
Exactly. Thank you very much.
Base it into.
Let's say
Yes, I
that.
would say to a degree, but
It's wrong.
I can't speak on behalf of others, okay?
But you were
Their
speaking on behalf of
lifestyle,
others.
They do it depends into individual case you're talking about.
Guys,
Okay?
I hope you're not filming me. If I see myself,
You're gonna be famous.
How long have you been here?
if I see myself,
Glenn?
let me
How long you been here? This was in front of you all this time?
Let me say the legal disclaimer. If I see myself on there, I will sue you. I do not want to
Speaker's
be,
corner anyway.
I do not want to be on.
You're not allowed to sue.
Is it speaker
I can now. I've realised.
There's an open space.
By the way, why are you afraid? Why are you afraid to put that on?
It's a public
The
space.
public space is
You can by all means walk
Yeah.
away right now.
Well, I'm requesting that he doesn't film me.
No,
That's
but
a polite
why are
thing
you
to do.
afraid to put that on?
Public space, mate.
I'm not afraid.
What is the reason for your
Whatever I do,
for your
why do you
denial?
always twist it into this, that, or the
I'm
other?
asking you because it looks
It's
like you're
not-
somehow
it's
worried
not-
about this.
It's nothing. I'm not. It looks that way to you. But
It's
I
scared
assure
to be
you.
exposed. That's it.
Let him answer. Let him answer.
No, I'll say it.
Why are you worried? That's all I'm asking.
I will say everything again, and I will be on film interrupting just as many times as you interrupted me again.
And you never interrupted.
I
I'm sure.
don't. Well,
Just be quiet.
you're an expert.
It goes both ways, isn't it?
If I'm as bad at interrupting as you are, then I'm sorry.
Okay, likewise.
But the point is, I'll say this just to underline that I'm not trying to get out of it. Yeah, I am saying that because we can take that a mother and a son having sex is wrong in nature, and I said why for me as a measure, and it's not specific for father and son. It's not. So I'm not trying to defend that. That doesn't, to me, mean that fathers and sons can do it with impunity and mothers and sons can't. It doesn't mean that. What I would do, because you asked me how I get my morals, what I would do is I would say, well, this is nature showing us that siblings having sex with their parents, not because it's mother and son. It's just nature showing us that siblings having sex with the parents is wrong.
If that is your reason,
therefore I'd say no, fathers and sons shouldn't do it. If that is your
reason about...
Now you might not like that because nature...
You gave the principle that as long as they consent...
You still haven't finished. You might not like that because it is inspecific, it's unspecific. And I said it was unspecific, and if that was your problem, I'm not saying it is your problem, if it was your problem, I would agree with you because I started by saying it's unspecific. But just as it's unspecific, taking human nature of what a mother and a son should or shouldn't do, doesn't apply to sons and fathers. It doesn't. Just as it's unspecific, there are very unspecific things in religious morality as well, which is why we see people that call themselves Christian behaving differently in that town to that town, or in the same town, next door neighbours.
Same with atheists.
Because
one atheist moral is another's immoral.
Humans, whatever the reason is.
Same thing applies to you.
Exactly.
Yes. So what you're saying, your principle.
So the reason is, I want to answer. I'll give it. Let you talk. The point is, you said something many moments ago. It wasn't, but I've held this in my mind. I want to respond to this. You said that it's you can't just say, you were saying I was being hypocritical or something. You can't just talk about something like that. Which is why I finished the sentence off with something like that.
I said you're being inconsistent
so the point is,
in your principle.
If it's